Hi, my name is Johanna Colon. I am a middle school social studies ELL MLL video content specialist. This is a teacher-facing video that will focus on Unit 3, Day 7. The title of this lesson is Alaska and Hawaii, with a focus question of what factors led to U.S. foreign policy. By the time that you are on this lesson, students are expected to know what foreign policy means. The lesson objective is evaluate perspectives regarding United States imperialism beyond the Pacific Ocean and the contiguous United States and and contrast these efforts through primary source analysis. So the perspectives are for this lesson are either going to be in support of imperialism or against imperialism, as evidenced in the graphic organizers, where you have in support of Alaska, which should be a happy face, right? That there's a modification, or against, opposed to, right? Not, they don't like it. They don't want the purchase, right? That's an easy way for your else to access the content in that way, where you're having, you use visuals to reinforce what things mean, especially in a chart. Today, we will be focusing on imperialism, US expansion in Alaska and Hawaii, and anti-imperialism. By now, students know what imperialism is. They understand what US expansion is. So they're going to see it with these two examples for this particular lesson. And anti-imperialism is technically a new term, right? So for anti-imperialism, you want to say against or not in favor of imperialism, right? So, and then, you can explain to students that, well, if they're anti-imperialism, do they want US expansion or not? And the students should be able to tell you that they do not want US expansion if they're not in favor of imperialism, right? So I think that's a really important connection because they already know what these are. So you're building off of that knowledge. The areas of focus for this lesson are building background knowledge, as I just expressed, targeting vocabulary development, increasing access to grade level text, and using students' home language as a resource in according with the Division of Multilingual Learners. The approaches and techniques that will be used for this lesson are KWL chart, guiding questions, Google Translate, and purposeful images. The introduction or model has already been dealt with the previous video linked to this one, teacher facing video 1 of 2. Okay, and once you discuss this introduction model, right, and you can of course use students' home language and whatnot, you want to move on, right? You want to explain that Alaska and Hawaii are acquisitions. So they are they are taken or annexed, right? So that's another important word for students, annexed, right? So you want to make sure that you reinforce this by saying, well, annexed equals taken or added, right? So there's an important, there's a new vocabulary word for the students that they can use. And if you want to translate for your else, you can certainly do that. You can go to Google Translate. And let's say you want to translate to Haitian Creole. Or let's just use Russian since it's right here, Russian. There you go. You go back here, you paste it, and you can use a different color to represent that it's a different language, okay? So that is an important thing that you want to do with your students. You want to show, okay, well, these, according to this map, it says that Alaska and Hawaii were annexed, right? They were annexed in the 1800s. So what does annexed mean? Um, right? And look, and they could kind of inference because it says territorial status granted, right? So they were purchased, territorial status granted, and then admitted as a state. So they both became states. So they're definitely part of the United States, right? So you can really explain that. Another thing that you can use is vocabulary.com, and you can type in annexed, and it really it really tells you what it means, right? So annex means addition. In this case, we want to say addition. You're adding on, right? And it's an extension, right? To annex something is to attach to. In this case, we think about it as a verb to take territory as if by conquest. In this case, it because of imperialism, right? So this is certainly a great tool, vocabulary.com, to really hone in on those vocabulary terms. Now, as the lesson progresses, you do have a document set activity. If you go to Teach Hub, you are able to access the student workbooks. Okay, you are able to access the student workbooks, which also include the texts, the documents in their home language. So if we take a look here, let's say for example in Spanish, here you have the background, and here you have document 1 fully translated, and document 2 and 3 with questions that are translated as well. Okay, and of course it's available in English. You can have the students preview the text before the lesson, so that they are able to fully access it fully access it during class time. You can have them use it side by side during the lesson, however you want. When thinking about the document set, you want to make sure that you're incorporating students' background knowledge. A beautiful way to do this is by using a KWL chart. In this case, the topic would be US imperialism slash expansion. And here you have what do you think you already know about this topic? The kids know about foreign policy, imperialism, right? What do you wonder about this topic? Okay, they probably would write something like, how did they annex, or right now they understand what annex is. How did they annex Alaska and Hawaii? How did they add it? And learned after you complete your project, write what you've learned. This is something that you can use at the end of this entire lesson to assess the students. It can be used as an assessment. And of course, the KWL chart really helps the students contextualize and build that background knowledge, right, that we want them to understand. Okay. Um, so something that you might want to really think about, right? This background information, really have the students understand the background information, which is also the historical context. Um, and some words students might not know what enthusiastic means, right? Prospects, these are high level words. Maybe they know negotiated. Negotiated is also can be a cognate in the Romance languages, like in Spanish, negotiated is negociar, right? So if we take a look at the Spanish PDF, we can surely see that, where you see here, let me see, negocio, ¿verdad? Para negocio, negociar, right? So that's very important to use those cognates and to have those students really hone in on that. And for the words that they don't know, you can encourage the students, right, to create their glossaries, or you can create it themselves. You could create it for them. They could create it themselves, or you could create it for them, right? They can use vocabulary.com as they They can use vocabulary.com as they, of course, um, preview the text. And, you just want to make sure that you model that for them so they're able to use these tools.